Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's midday weather outlook for the southern region brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Looking over our last 3 days, we have seen some very heavy rainfall across parts of the south, specifically eastern Texas, getting into parts of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. Some of these storms, as they went racing through there, did produce quite a bit of damage. We'll take a look at that in just a few seconds. But overall, across our southern region, some good rains. Now, on the northern edge of our southern region, so I'm specifically talking right in through here, we have been quite dry in some pockets there recently. But we do have some very meaningful rain coming into that area. In this forecast discussion, we will be talking about how I'm not anticipating much rainfall here in this critical part of the Cotton Belt, for example, getting up into parts of the panhandle of Texas and Oklahoma. And so let's get into this and start watching this upcoming forecast evolve here. First of all, I just want to show you those storm reports from those nasty storms just yesterday that went racing from Louisiana through Mississippi and Alabama. Outside of that, widely scattered storms did put down some pretty heavy rainfall at time. And check out this salad animation. This is a pretty good one here. This was just midday yesterday until the sun set, and we got to see a lot of very interesting cloud formations out of this. Now, first of all, you can see the large shield of clouds under which we saw some strong to severe storms that went from parts of Louisiana into Mississippi and Alabama. But outside of that, your very normal scattered thunderstorm activity that we typically see here across parts of Alabama, Georgia, and South Carolina. Now, a couple things I want to point out. Look at the storms over parts of Florida. It's beautiful to see the sea breeze in action here, blowing up these storms running across the center part of that state. And really, the one that I find so fascinating is this storm right over here. Now, if you watch this again, you're going to see it put down its own outflow. And as the outflow comes out, you can even see the upper levels of the storm exciting some gravity waves in the surrounding cloud field. Watch it again. Ready? That stuff is so cool to me. Okay, from there, let's talk about the dust, because you could see some of that in the satellite image that I just showed you. This is, again, what we're expecting over the next 10 days in terms of Saharan dust. So very dusty conditions here moving across the open ocean. If we start that over again, we're going to see that the end of throughout the day today and the end of this week and weekend kind of be our biggest dust issues here. So we kind of talked about this week as to what to expect. Overall, though, this is, this event has been quite unprecedented at times as it moved across the Atlantic Ocean here. Now, I had mentioned that this dust could work on eliminating tropical threat, but we'd also been talking about how, because of the standing wave of the MJO sitting over parts of Africa, that in general we had motion that was going to be suppressing vertical motion in this area, but allowing air to rise more evenly. We call these convectively coupled Kelvin waves. That's kind of the way of looking at it, and it's just a way of watching the tropics, for lack of a better term, breathe up and down, the up and down motion of the tropics. So the map that you see on the left is actually the same as you see over here on the right. You can see that this is, however, a Havmüller diagram. So again, same color coding. This is where the air rises, and this is where the air is sinking. So you can see there in the Central Pacific where it's sinking. We do start to see almost some movement, though, more typical of the MJO over here in the Caribbean, main development region for the Atlantic, and the Gulf of Mexico. So despite the dust that we're dealing with, take a look at this. Latest European model is watching an area right here coming off of a wave in Africa that on the tail end of that dust could potentially develop into a tropical system. Now, right now, the National Hurricane Center is not really discussing it too much. It's pretty far out there in the forecast. And even 5 days from now, so early next week, we'll still be talking about it still east of the Lesser Antilles. But I'm going to keep a close eye on this and watch it develop. And we're also going to talk about what's going on here. While this is not necessarily a tropical system that's developing here, the jet stream pattern as it's evolving in the coming days and maybe the next 2 weeks is very interesting for the eastern part of the United States, and it will mean a lot for the precipitation patterns here across the south. So over this next week, we have an interesting setup here that's happening just to our north. I'm going to be watching for the potential, now just watch me draw over this, for squall lines to develop today here, but potentially build in like MCS fashion down here toward parts of the Mid-South. Meanwhile, the flow coming around high pressure like this is going to keep this corridor quite stormy over the coming days. What I don't see is rainfall, meaningful rainfall coming back into parts of Texas, getting over to the Four Corner states, which means the drought we've been dealing with here looks to expand, and certainly no indication of early onset, well, not early, of normal onset of the monsoonal rainfall. It seems as though it's still late here in parts of Arizona. So let's watch this unfold. You see the high pressure cell in this area? Well, this is going to be what's pumping moisture into the storms that are coming through the Corn Belt, but then it's going to keep, as the air just circulates around this, a good flow of moisture, giving us very stormy conditions across this area. So we're going to start Friday morning. Let's pause it right here and see how this weekend evolves. Ready? So this goes from Friday morning into the afternoon and evening hours. So widespread storms on the afternoon heat in this region. Just again, flowing around this high. This is once again a very hit or miss scenario with our storms. Meanwhile, the front is now passing through this evening on Friday through here in parts of the Corn Belt. Ready? So as the storms right here really get going, the question will be, do they build on down the line such that into Saturday we get mesoscale convective system, that squall line, a development right here in parts of the Mid-South. But you overall don't see a pattern change. You can almost still see as I get into Saturday evening, the boundary still sits here across the Corn Belt and we're pumping it full of moisture. So we're going to see why these scattered storms in this area may be lesser so as you get toward the higher pressure, that cell that'll be kind of situated over here in parts of the southeast. Okay, working our way now into Sunday. You'll see it again. Here's Sunday evening. Working our way now into Monday. It's just going to be the daily convective activity around that high pressure cell that's sitting here. And I just took you all the way through Tuesday evening. Now, early into next week, or midweek, I should say, the widespread storm chances do spread a bit farther to the east. And as you can see, by next Wednesday, the operational models are calling for a very wet situation here across the southeast. And look again, storms pop once again on Thursday afternoon and evening. And then you're going to see it again on Friday afternoon and evening, which is here. So I'm all the way out to next week at this point. And we're seeing a very similar pattern evolve. Now the question is, does that pattern have staying power? So if we look out here to day 10, the jet stream pattern's doing something a bit like this. Now, this jet stream pattern flattens out what was a huge ridge that builds into the Great Lakes later this week. But what I see in this is I see a high pressure cell sitting here, and can you almost see northwest flow there and kind of almost troughing along the east coast. Now, why bring that up? Well, around the high pressure cell, flow is going to go like this. Around what could be lower upper level pressure, the flow is going to go like that. And the two things kind of come together here, giving us a stormy pattern across this section of the country as we work our way into week 2. And it's aided by the fact that the mid-level high pressure cell over the subtropics is just staying there. It's not here, and that is good for opening up Gulf moisture and giving us a lot of thunderstorm activity. So what do we see? We see as we look out into week 2, that area showing up with a stormier pattern. What I don't see is a lot of excessive thunderstorm activity here. Now, we could still get storms that build on the heat of the day in New Mexico, and that's a very common thing this time of year. But remember, a lot of these storms fail to put their downdrafts all the way to the ground with precipitation. So I'm seeing a continuation of a good rainfall pattern here into week 2 at this point, drier to the west. Now, when we look back over the last 14 days, we want to see some of these holes fill in here that have been dry. That would be good. That would be good midsummer moisture. Well, I should say early summer moisture as we go into the second half of this growing season overall. So that's what I'm watching out for. And once again, we might, on the northern edge of our southern region, get some good rains in here into parts of Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, Tennessee, Kentucky that do need to see that rain. We did see some expansion in the drought monitor in this particular area as of late. And overall, we've maintained the drought monitor status, in this particular area. I'm not expecting any relief in the drought monitor in that area in the near term. So it's going to be a situation where that drought continues to stay where it is, possibly even expand slightly. Last slide I want to show you. This is now looking out for the entire month of July. A few things that concern me. This right here. This says that the southwestern monsoon is not turning itself on and getting going as we progress into the month of July. It looks as though it's going to be delayed a bit. Overall, with the jet stream retreating north, building in the heat could help that monsoon come on later, but it's a situation here that I'm starting to get very concerned about. Notice the models through the month of July still keeping it very stormy across our southern region, which is something I want to watch out for. I do believe we're biased a bit too warm in the west, but overall, look at that. because of this jet stream flow pattern that's setting up, we may at times be experiencing much closer to average temperatures throughout July along the south as the heat or the above average temperatures build north of it. So again, this is July 1st through the 31st from the latest European model run, which came out last night. So we'll keep it there, and we'll watch this all evolve over the weekend. I look forward to giving you new updates next week, okay? Have a good weekend. Enjoy it, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.